the news hour, coming to you live from the studios of HiitzafrikRadio and TV. Stay tuned. Download the tuning app onto your mobile phone today and catch up on all the latest news from HiitzafrikRadio. Broadcasting live on modern Ghana and our website www.HiitzafrikRadio.org. HiitzafrikRadio News Hour live.
It's a beautiful evening, and the time is exactly 07 past 19 hours GMT in the studios of HiitzafrikRadio and TV. Today happens to be the 8th of April 2021. Now let's do tonight's news headlines. New JES laboratory near completion. Eastern Regional Minister visits Odan. Akuse Government Hospital delivers Siamese twins. Unlicensed engineering practitioners to be sanctioned. I regret campaigning for NPP. These and many other stories that come your way this evening. Stay tuned as we do the news in details. My name is Abena Ahini. Now let's do the news in details. The newly constructed building that will house the National Testing Laboratory, located at the Ghana Standards Authority (GSA) head office in Accra. The newly constructed building that will house the National Testing Laboratory. At present, equipment and other machinery needed are being installed in the last phase of the construction process. The facility, constructed at the cost of $1.98 million, is expected to help regulators test the efficiency of all air conditioners imported into the country to ensure that they conform to standards. The Director General of the GSA, Professor Alex Dodu, who made this known to the Daily Graphic in an interview, said the laboratory would be the first kind in the West African sub-region. The laboratory will give the GSA the capacity to assess the energy efficiency of ductless air conditioning room systems, split air conditioners, and also help improve the management of energy in the country, he said. Professor Dodu said the laboratory would also help ensure that electrical appliances that consumed high energy, particularly air conditioners and refrigerators, met the minimum energy efficiency standards set out in the Energy Commission regularities. The laboratory will support the National Appliance Standards and Labeling Systems program spearheaded by the Energy Commission. In the last 10 years, since we developed the capacity to test all important regulators, we have realized that there is high conformity to the country's standards. Unlike in the past, when we didn't have the capacity to test, so this laboratory marks a major leap in advancing conformity to standards in the country, he said. Moreover, Professor Dodu said, beyond giving the countries the capacity to test air conditioners, the laboratory would also give regulators a fair idea of the origins of the inferior air conditioners imported in the country. Right now, air conditioners imported into the country come with an international testing certification, but we don't have the capacity to verify indeed they pass the conformity test. This laboratory, therefore, will save the country a lot of money, he said. The laboratory, which is part of the Energy Efficiency and Demand-Side Management (EEDSM) project of the Ghana Power Compact, was procured under $308 million grant made available to the government by the Millennium Challenge Corporation (MCC). It was spearheaded by its local agency, the Millennium Development Authority (MIDA), which was established to oversee, manage, and implement all programs under the MCC Compact. Last week, a statement issued by the Communications and Public Outreach Unit of MIDA said MESSRS GH Housing Limited was the constructor taking the construction of the building which would use the test laboratory. It said the laboratory would provide vital services that will consequently contribute to the efficient use of electricity in the country. Moving on to other stories, is distractions. Mr. Seth Echampong, the Eastern Regional Minister, to property caused by a rainstorm that hit Achim Odan last Monday afternoon. He was accompanied by the Eastern Regional Director of the National Disaster Management Organization, NADMO, Mr. Kwame Kojua, and the Member of Parliament, MP for Achim Odan, Mr. Alexander Akwesi Akwa, and the Municipal Chief Executive, MCE for Brim Central, Ms. Victoria Edu. Among the places Mr. Echampong visited was the Atifua Senior High School, SHS, which was the worst hit in the rainstorm. The roofs of the school's boys and girls dormitories and the administration and library buildings, as well as the headmaster's bungalow and that of some tutors, were ripped off in the storm. The regional minister and his entourage also visited the Odan Newtown Presbyterian Primary School, Presbyterian Boys and Girls Junior High School, Odan Anglican Kindergarten and Primary Schools, and the Odan Camp Roman Catholic Primary School, which all suffered serious damage in the storm. Addressing the staff, students and pupils of the affected schools that separated ceremonies, Mr. Echampong said he was sorry for their loss and that the President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, had been notified. He assured the students that our schools will be rehabilitated within the shortest possible time for normal academic work to resume. Following concerns expressed by the headmaster of the Atifua Senior High School, Mr. Franz Humsen Barnes, regarding a power cut to the school and which had disrupted water supply, the regional minister placed a phone call to the regional heads of both the Electricity Company of Ghana and the Ghana Water Company Limited and asked that both power and water be restored to the school soon for academic work to resume in earnest. Mr. Echampong was happy that there were no casualties as a result of the rainstorm, and also that the 12 students who got injured had been treated and discharged from the Odan Government Hospital. He met with sections of victims of the rain disaster at Odan Old Town and commiserated with them. He also paid a courtesy call on the Odan Zongo chief, Alhaji Suleimana Adamu, and his elders, and assured them that the government will assist them to repair their damaged buildings. The Eastern Regional Minister commended the MP, Mr. Akwesi Akwa, and the MCE, Ms. Victoria Edu, for informing him immediately the disaster struck and for also mobilizing volunteers to a rescue mission. Most parts of the Achim Odan municipality have been without electricity since last Monday because the wooden electricity pole and cables that carried power were destroyed in the storm. Moving on to other stories, Akuse Government Hospital, leading the team to perform the Kayserian. A set of Siemens twins were delivered yesterday at the Akuse Government Hospital in the Lower Manyakrobo municipality. A team of medical doctors led by Dr. Tyrus Valmont from the Akosombo VRA hospital, which lasted an hour to deliver the babies. It also took about 3 hours, according to the medical team, to resuscitate the Siemens twins before they were referred to the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, KBTH, for further examination. The Daily Graphic had gathered that an initial scan at the KBTH indicates that the babies, who are conjoined in the thorax, the chest to the abdomen, are not sharing any organs. Further scans would be carried out. Other members of the medical team included Dr. Alhassan Mausa, Dr. Manye, Ami Asante Darkon, and Dr. Christabel Akese. The other staff included the theater nurses and anesthetists, Mr. Heya Asantua, Mr. Richard Opon Chenebua, Miss Rahel Enyonam Jata, Miss Comfort Amevo, Miss Monica Matikojo, and Miss Kezia Kumetu. Dr. Mausa, who was part of the medical team, told the Daily Graphic at Akuse that the theater of the Akuse Government Hospital was built in 1922 during the colonial era and had therefore become too small, outmoded, and lacked a lot of modern equipment that would facilitate the work of a medical team in the theater. He said for such a delicate operation, the medical team had to dig deep for a successful procedure, but they might be lucky the next time around. Dr. Mausa therefore appealed to the government to build a modern and a well-equipped theater with modern equipment for a theater facility with big modern equipment. It will urge and motivate us to do more, even though we are doing our best with this old facility which lacks modern equipment, he said. Member of Parliament for North Tongu, Mrs. Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, whose constituency the parents hail from, and was at the hospital and pledged to foot the medical expenses occurred on the Siemens twins until they were separated. When reached for comment, Mr. Okudzeto Ablakwa commended the medical team for carrying out the operation which medical experts described as complex. He reiterated his commitment to foot the medical bills and said he will personally visit Kolebu to see how they were faring. Moving on to other stories, unlicensed engineering practitioners to be sanctioned. Practitioners and firms who provide engineering services without the requisite licenses would be sanctioned effective November 1st, 2021. In accordance with the Engineering Council Act 2011, Act 819, all engineering professionals and firms offering engineering-related services are to register and obtain it legally in the country. This was announced at a press conference by the Ministry of Works and Housing in Accra yesterday. It highlighted the Engineering Council Act 2011, Act 819, and the Engineering Council Regulation 2020. Legislative Instrument LI 2410, which seek to ensure adherence to higher standards in the industry. Under the Act, which came into force in October 2020, practitioners and firms have a grace period of 12 months after the promulgation of the law to register and obtain licenses. The chairman of the Engineering Council Board, Mr. Akwesi Abesam, said the council had declared 2021 a year of action and would therefore embark on a major exercise to clamp down on unlicensed engineering practitioners to ensure sanity in the sector. He advised those who dealt in engineering services, including firms, to engage the services of only registered practitioners, contractors, consultants, and vendors of engineering equipment and components. To fulfill the requirements of Act 819 and LI 2410, Mr. Sam said the council had licensed the Ghana Institute of Engineering, GHIE, and the Institution of Engineering and Technology, Ghana, IET Ghana, to process the registration of all categories of engineering practitioners, firms, and educational units in the country. A member of the Legal and Ethics Committee of the Engineering Council Board, Mr. Ebenezer Heisel, said persons and organizations which contravened the law would face sanctions, including fines, imprisonment, or both. He also said any person who failed to register with the council could not practice or profess as an engineering practitioner. Anyone who contravenes the provisions of the Act commits an offense and is liable, upon summary conviction, to a fine of not more than 5,000 penalty units or a term of imprisonment of not more than 2 years or to both, he said. A penalty unit is 12 Ghana cedis. Foreign engineers who want to undertake any project or work either short or long term are also required to register with the council. Mr. Heisel further explained that the Engineering Council Act 2011 Act 819 aimed to effectively promote science engineering within society through the regulation of standards of practice, including the licensing of institutions and professionalism. Engineering Council Regulation 2020, on the other hand, is to regulate the practice of engineering and progress in the practice of engineering. LI 2410 would also help the Engineering Council Act to ward off quack engineering schools and practitioners, Mr. Heisel added. Moving on to other stories, 8 nursing mothers released from hospital detention. Mr. Simon Awudbedek, the administrator of the Greater Accra Regional Hospital, presenting the checks to Ms. Doris of the payment of the Greater jointly paid 13,000 hospital for the release of the mothers who have been on forced admissions for days and weeks because of their inability to pay for services rendered to them by the hospital. The two organizations were supported in their gesture by a USA-based body, Girl Trek. According to the founder of Life Commission, Ni Ayite Tete, the charity was focused on child health and education on the underprivileged in the society. During occasions such as Easter and Christmas, he said, the Commission supported existing funds to reach out to the underprivileged. Sometimes, Mr. Tata stressed, the Commission undertook direct projects by offering support to needy children and detained mothers who could not pay their bills. The founder of Sincerely Living Foundation, Ms. Vanessa Jan, was in maternal health awareness, and that it had been doing that for the past 4 years through visits to various hospitals. And this is where we end our local stories. Stay tuned as we do other African stories.
The News Hour, coming to you live from the studios of HiitzafrikRadio and TV. Stay tuned. Download the tuning app on.
You're still logged on to HiitzafrikRadio and TV. Now let's do some other African stories. In Chad, Chadian youth see impending presidential polls as mere theater. Brim Tabe, 25, has only known one president, Idris Deby, who has been in power for 30 years. At 25 years old, Brim Tabe has only known one president, Idris Deby. He wants things to change, but no longer believes in it. Because the Chadian president, who has been in power for 30 years, is sure of a sixth term in Sunday's presidential election. Like many of his peers disillusioned by the misery that afflicts the third least developed country in the world, according to the UN, Rimtibai spent his days venting his desire for change on social networks. Bedridden in a small brick house in the Gassi neighborhood of the capital, in Jamena, Rimtibai survives in extreme poverty. In 2019, his life was turned upside down when a road accident left him paralyzed. The 25-year-old receives no assistance, and his immediate family struggles to pay for his care. His mother receives no pension, and his sister is forced to ride a motorcycle cab for barely 2,500 CFA francs a day. That's less than fourth under the reign of President Idris Deby. Chad is behind at all levels, political, economic, social, he laments. And also in education, between the age of 4 and 18, Chadian children spend an average of only 5 years in school, according to the World Bank. Ami Asdaji Bona, 29, is not one of President David's supporters who flock to his meetings. He runs a platform to help young graduates find jobs in the civil service. Even to get a job, you need a friend or a well-placed relative, he laments. On Sunday, a May will not vote and will instead go to protest. On April 11th, as a conscious citizen, I will not be voting because it is an election already being decided in advance. We already know the result. It's pure theater. To leaven up the political scene a bit, there is no opposition in these elections. It is a single party which has fabricated an opposition to accompany it. The 29-year-old said. The money of the campaign, if only it could be used to make pipes, tax, the young man added. A large part of the capital, like almost the rest of the country, has no running water. A graduate in biomedical sciences, the 29-year-old is also looking for a job that matches his studies. His dream is to work in a laboratory. For example, when the electricity comes back to the neighborhood, the children shout with joy. Frankly, it hurts my heart, he says. Power cuts are frequent, sometimes lasting several days, as in most parts of N'Djamena. The streets of Gassi are not paved like many others. During the rainy season, it is difficult for Rumbataya's family to go out by car in a city that is frequently flooded. For several months, President Davi's government, which authorizes and even encourages a certain moderate opposition and manipulated, according to its dictators, have been violently repressing the more critical opposition, which calls for peaceful marches for change every Saturday. But the peaceful marches hardly draws the numbers. The division of the opposition, which has failed to push a single candidate, and the security forces that violently disperse the slightest gathering dissuade even the most reckless. In other stories, Ugandan military intelligence chief Abel Kadiho and his Egyptian counterpart at the signing of the protocol in Kampala on the 7th of April 2021. Egypt and Uganda have signed a memorandum of understanding on military intelligence sharing, Uganda officials said Thursday amid growing tensions over a mega dam built by Ethiopia on the Nile River. The text, signed Wednesday evening by the head of Uganda military intelligence, Abel Kadiho, and the number 2 of Egyptian provides that the two agencies each exchange information, including to combat terrorism, a spokesman for Uganda's Ministry of Defense told AFP. Given that Uganda and Egypt share the Nile, cooperation between the two countries is inevitable because what affects the Ugandans will affect Egypt in one way or another. In other stories, remains of a dozen experts killed in Mozambique hotel attack found. The Mozambique government has called for international support after the most serious terror attack since the start of the Islamic State agency for 4 years. The remains of a dozen experts are discovered outside the Amarura Hotel in Mozambique as they attempted to flee jihadist militants who surrounded it as part of the attack. And beheaded were found under a tree outside the hotel in Palma, witnesses say. The hotel has been subjected to multiple lootings since the attack and almost every room has been ransacked. Palma, which has overrun by fighters a fortnight ago, has been reclaimed by the Mozambique army. Residents have also turned to the area, which is now swamped with military personnel. Dika Carrara, a contractor who was returning to check on his construction yard, said he was blown out of the building. away by the distraction. Moving on to other stories in Sudan, rises to 130, over 200 people injured. The death toll from tribal clashes in Jinaya, the capital of West Darfur State in Sudan, has risen to 132, an official said on Thursday. Speaking to reporters, Mohammed Abdallah Al-Dauma, the state's governor, said the 208 people have also been injured in the clashes. Earlier, the Central Committee of Sudanese doctors put the death toll at 125. The bloodshed, which began Saturday, is the latest in the resurgence of violence in Darfur region. The signing of a peace agreement last year and the withdrawal of UN peacekeepers is still not preventing tribal clashes in the northeastern African nations. On Monday, Sudan's Security and Defense Council declared a state of emergency in the state to mediate ongoing violence. Many areas in Darfur see sporadic clashes between Arab and African tribes due to conflicts over land and other resources. Stay tuned as we fetch you the world news.
The News Hour, coming to you live from the studios of HiitzafrikRadio and TV. Stay tuned.
You're still logged on to HiitzafrikRadio and TV as the News Hour, transmitting live on our website at www.HiitzafrikRadio.org. Now let's do some world news. Czech vaccines, European Rights Court back shown just before receiving a vaccine. The European Court of Human Rights, ECHR, has backed the Czech Republic in its requirements for mandatory preschool vaccinations. The case was brought by families who were fined or whose children were refused entry to preschool because the court found that while the Czech policy interfered with the rights, all the cases predate the pandemic. However, the issue of routine children vaccinations has come under increasing scrutiny due to the spread of COVID-19. Child vaccinations fall sharply amid pandemic. Measles reassurance, fear amid coronavirus. This is the first ruling from the ECHR on compulsory vaccination against childhood diseases. The judges backed the Czech legislation by 16-1. The measures could be regarded as being necessary in the democratic society, the court said, adding vaccination or by under rules, parents are legally obliged to vaccinate their children against a number of childhood diseases unless this is not possible for health reasons. And in other stories, is Turkey. Turkey blames EU in suffragette diplomatic spat. When European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen was left standing because of a lack of chairs in Ankara, she reacted with an audible ahem. Neither Turkey's president nor Mrs. von der Leyen, EU's colleague Charles Michel, came out of it looking all that good. But Turkey has now laid the blame on the EU for unjust accusations. Foreign Minister Mevlut Cavusoglu was adamant on Thursday. The protocol at the presidency met the demands of the EU side. In other words, the sitting arrangement was designed to meet their demands and suggestions. This is not quite how Mr. Michel saw it. The former Belgian Prime Minister, who represents the EU's 27 member states as Council President. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan (C) EU Council President Charles Michel, the President of EU Commission Ursula von der Leyen, posed before their meeting at the Presidential Palace in Ankara, Turkey on the 6th of April. In other stories, U.S. gun violence, Joe Biden to target ghost guns. U.S. President Joe Biden is to target homemade gun ghosts as part of the new set of measures to tackle gun violence, the White House official has said. Ghost guns have no serial numbers, making them difficult to trace. They can be bought by minors and people who would not pass background checks. Mr. Biden will enact the measures through an executive order, meaning he will not need approval from Congress. The move comes after high-profile mass shootings last month. A total of 18 people died in mass shootings, one in Boulder, Colorado, and the other in Atlanta, Georgia. The executive order will include measures on the use of stabilizing braces and community violence prevention. However, the president will have an uphill task. The right to bear arms is protected by the Second Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, and many people see gun control laws as infringing on their constitutional rights. An official told Reuters news agency that this was just the first step in tackling gun violence and that Mr. Biden would continue to advocate for gun legislation. The president will not wait for Congress to act before the administration takes our own steps. Fully within the administration's authority and the Second Amendment to that rules, important 60 votes are needed to pass legislation, so some Republican support is required. Republicans have blocked significant gun control laws in the past. And this is where we end our
The News Hour, coming to you live from the studios of HiitzafrikRadio and TV. Stay tuned.
You're still logged on to HiitzafrikRadio and TV. We are streaming live on our website at www.HiitzafrikRadio.org. Now let's do some entertainment news. I don't live in Ghana because of the mindset of Ghanaians, Sonny Baidu. Sonny Baidu has disclosed why he doesn't live in Ghana. Whilst addressing his critics, the Ghanaian Gospel Music Church has been a subject of criticism following his revelation that by the grace of God he has acquired a degree, master's and PhD within 4 months. Reacting to trolls after a Twitter user controversially disputed his degrees, Sonny Baidu said, "I don't even know how old they are. Have the audacity to disrespect and others are jumping." According to Sonny Baidu, if we keep going this way, will our nation grow? If we keep on this way, especially in Ghana, killing our heroes, someone has the audacity to question my Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award. Moving on to other stories, Wizkid graces birthday ceremony of skincare line that produces natural and plant-based cosmetic products is a well-known Wizkid stan. Therefore, it doesn't mean the president's daughter couldn't hide her joy of fun. That's all. In the now deleted post from her Instagram page, she continued that I had the most amazing birthday yesterday. Thanks to Stan, my sisters, family, friends, and all of you who wished me well and sent messages of love. God bless you. In other stories, I regret campaigning for NTP. Kojo Sheldon has expressed his disappointment in campaigning for this government. To be honest, Kojo Sheldon tweeted today, April 8, 2021, as a reply to a post by His Excellency Nana Addo that said on Wednesday, 7th April 2021, I cut the soft new administrative building for the head. Comment comes to add to the many on social media as a cross-section of Ghanaians online chastised the government over the Ghana Award House 5 million Ghana cedis project, which many have described as a misplaced priority. And on this note, we end the news for tonight. Stay tuned as we do a recap of tonight's stories.
The News Hour, coming to you live from the studios of HiitzafrikRadio and TV. Stay tuned. Download the tune. The News Hour.
Now let's do a recap of tonight's headlines. New GES laboratory near completion. Eastern Regional Minister visits Odan. Akose Government Hospitals delivers Siemens twins. Unlicensed engineering practitioners to be sanctioned. I regret campaigning for NPP. And other stories we brought your way this evening. My name is Abena Ahunia. Have a beautiful evening and do enjoy the rest of our program.